Hey KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra. No longer on the road, back at home. Our trusty studio.
This isn't Houston?
Nope.
Oh, this is
not
Lawrence,
Des Moines, not Louisville
man.
either.
We
Louisville.
thought we would be Houston.
We did. We booked it.
We were wrong.
We were wrong. 4 other teams are.
Mm-hmm.
Several other reporters are. We are not.
No.
But you know what I found out just about 4 minutes before we hit record on this episode?
What?
My New Year's resolution, and yes, it's April. My New Year's resolution is by the end of 2016 to have a sign made for you, Benton Smith.
Oh, that doesn't have my name on it?
No, Tom Keegan.
I'm all sorts of confused today.
So you have to do your best to act like Tom throughout this thing.
Oh, boy.
You have to go tangents.
Yeah.
You
Bernie Sanders impressions.
Yes, that would be good. Anything about Marquette will fly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things that can happen
That's
here
true.
for you.
I do like Jay Crowder.
There you go.
All right.
Celtic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just get to be me.
Okay.
Another boring day in my world. You get to be you and Tom Keegan. More importantly, though, we're going to bring a little bit of a recap and a little bit of a look forward about this KU basketball season. They finished 33-5, a heartbreaking loss to Villanova. Heartbreaking in that if they had just scored 5 more points, they'd be in the Final Four in Houston, and we would too. So other than that, though, the game itself, not necessarily a heartbreaker. It was a tough game. It was back and forth, a couple of really good teams battling it out, and as even the players themselves said, Villanova found a way to make a couple more plays, and Kansas didn't, and that's the end of it. So the thing I want to know most about this, obviously we covered a pretty good run. This is the best run they've had in a little while.
Yeah.
What are you going to remember most about this team, about this season, about this run, any of that?
Probably just how well they started playing at the end of January,
right,
on through February and into March. Because, I mean, you know how it was that they lost like 3 out of 5 games or something like that in January, and they weren't playing well. Their defense did not look good.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, well, this is going to be another KU team that
second round loss.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't even get to the Sweet 16 again.
Right.
But then they put Landon Lucas in.
Right.
Great move by Bill Self, obviously. And the season turned around, really. They were honestly the best team in the country there for almost all of February and into March. And they lost to Villanova, who was the other top-ranked team in the nation during that stretch. So
no harm, no foul there.
Yeah. Obviously, there were some shortcomings in that Villanova game, but it was a great season. I was just impressed by the way that things turned around and so drastically and so quickly.
That's a really good one. I think that's, at the beginning of the season, you look at all those veterans, you look at the juniors, the seniors, all that experience. I kind of remember talking as we previewed the season about, wow, that's really going to pay dividends for this team.
Right.
And for the first half of that season, it really didn't. Like you said, they struggled defensively. They looked lost. They looked disconnected. There wasn't a whole lot of that veteran, mature look to this team. But right about that same time that you're talking about Landon Lucas going in late January, all that, they really did show how mature they were, what focus they had, and I'm with you. That's a very easy thing to remember. I think the other thing is just Perry Ellis. I mean,
for sure,
he was so good at the end of his junior year before he got hurt, and that kind of robbed us of a strong finish. And I think he obviously really picked up where he left off. He was so good all year. He was so consistent all year. He's a guy that I wrote this, and I've said this a couple of times. I think he's a guy that KU fans probably didn't appreciate nearly enough while he was here, and a guy that they will appreciate more and more every year he's gone. And in 10 years, they'll be talking about him as definitely one of the all-time greats, and I think they should already be talking about him like that.
Next year is when it'll hit.
Yeah.
When they don't have Perry Ellis
to
go get some points.
Yeah.
That's when people are going to notice, like, oh, man, Perry Ellis was really good at scoring the basketball.
Yeah, very, very good at that. So a heck of a year. Like we said, 33-5, Big 12 champs for the 12th straight year. Big 12 tournament champs, nothing wrong with that. They won a tournament in Maui. They won a tournament in Korea against the world. Right. You guys know the drill. It was a really good season. Bill Self racked up a bunch of Coach of the Year awards. Perry Ellis, a bunch of All-American honors, a bunch of All-Big 12 honors for these guys. I mean, there's just nothing you can take away from anything that they accomplished this year. And if the ball bounces a different way here and there or anything like that in that Villanova game, they probably win that one, and they have a good shot to go win it all. So I said this to other people. I think they win 7 of 10 if they play Villanova 10 times.
Same setting, neutral floor.
Exactly, right. That game 10 times, I think KU wins 7. And I think Villanova's really good, but I think KU was the better team, and I think it was just one of those nights. Selden misses jumpers he doesn't normally miss. Villanova gets a lot of credit for that. They did a masterful job on Perry Ellis, as everybody knows by now. But even that, I don't know that they could recreate that 10 times. I think if they tried that, it might work 3 or 4 times, but not 10. So how many do you think KU wins if they played 10 times?
I'd say 6 or 7.
Okay.
I'm going to go 6.5.
Okay. Good. I don't want you to be the same as me.
No, I don't want to say the exact same answer.
Yeah. Tom said 5 of 5, and he was very adamant about it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
In Louisville, in the arena.
I thought it might have been less than 5.
Yeah, no, I think he was pretty upset that I said 7, and so he said 5, and then he explained why. But we don't have time for that. But what we do have time for is you already mentioned it. They will think about Perry Ellis a lot next year when they're trying to figure out who can score points. Yeah. The big news is you've got a strong core of guys returning, and that's obviously Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, and Landon Lucas. Those guys, this group of seniors, and really only 2 of which played, really only 1 of which played that much. I mean, Jamari Traylor was a 10, 15-minute
hit
guy.
And miss for minutes. Yeah.
Right, and sometimes, single digits at most. So Evan Manning, Hunter Mickelson, those guys didn't play much at all. Right. So, but still, that group of seniors, that veteran group, even with Selden thrown in there as a veteran, a guy who'd played a lot, they really helped this team focus and get locked in on that hunger that they had to get past the second round and to get into the Elite Eight and to get to the Final Four, which they fell short of. I think Lucas, Graham, and Mason can kind of be that next year.
For sure, yeah. Those are kind of the perfect guys to carry that over.
Yeah, so they don't lose that coming into next season. And then obviously there are some other guys that will be back. It looks like Bragg will be back, which is a good news item.
Yeah.
A good news item. Write that down. Go check out your good news items at your local grocer. But that's huge because he can take a monster step forward, I think. Svi could do the same. Yeah. And then, of course, the recruiting class that remains to be filled and will be really interesting to see if they can get some guys. So the question is it possible that this team, though losing some very talented players, could even be better next year?
I think that depends on how you define that success.
Better, right.
I can't imagine, given the situation, all the guys are losing, Selden and Ellis being so crucial to what this team did. I just can't imagine them going 33-5 again. Yeah. But it's also easy to see on any given year KU reaching the Final Four. Right. Just because they have so much talent and Bill Self does such a consistently great job year in, year out.
Sure. Here's a way, and I've thought about this. Let's say the Big 12's down next year compared to what it is this year.
Which it kind of seems like it will be.
It should be, right? Yeah. Oklahoma won't be as good.
Nobody.
Texas won't be as good. Yeah. Although they could be better. Too.
Year 2 under Shaka.
Yeah, they'll lose some guys, but they also have that second year under him going. Who else won't be as good?
Iowa State.
Iowa State definitely won't be as good. West Virginia will still be pretty good, provided everybody comes back that can.
Baylor's not going to be as good.
Baylor's not going to be as good. So you're looking at a much easier Big 12. Not easy, but much easier.
Yeah.
So I think they could get through that thing with two losses possibly. I mean, what'd they have this year?
3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
So they're better.
So bottom line,
you heard it here first. 16-2 in the Big 12.
2 is better than 3.
It is
in this context. Yeah. Yes, right. So anyway, but I think so. I mean, if they take care of business in the non-con and they go 16-2 in the Big 12, ho hum, 16-2, very easy thing to do because Oklahoma State will be better than they were, and Texas Tech's kind of on the rise a little bit. So. It's possible that some of those teams that get worse, maybe the others get better and it balances out. I don't know. But I do think it's definitely possible. And I think a lot of it will depend on who they get to replace those guys.
Right.
Some of those guys you watched in the McDonald's game, Josh Jackson being number 1. I mean, if Josh Jackson fills that Wayne Selden role, huge lift or what?
It has to be a significant lift. But then I also kind of temper my expectations just seeing how those – top freshmen have done
at Kansas, especially
under Self the past few years. Even Andrew Wiggins, and maybe he was just overhyped. Maybe that was
no question. But Oubre is another one.
Yeah. But you kind of expected so much out of them, and then it's not that they didn't produce, but maybe just people in general were thinking they were players that they aren't actually, or weren't at that point in time at least. And how Self is about he doesn't like dumb decisions on defense, and freshmen make dumb decisions on defense.
You got to play defense, yeah.
So I think all of those are factors, and
that's true.
Any given freshman might be.
Well, maybe better is a stretch then, regardless of how you define it. Maybe better is a stretch, but certainly a threat, a danger, a national title contender again. I mean, that's the thing. They don't have to worry about rebuilding around here. You guys know that. They just find guys to plug in, and I think a lot of times a place like Kentucky, for example, Calipari said this himself after they lost to Indiana in Des Moines in the second round. He said, "I'm going to have a whole new team next year. I guess I'll deal with it," or whatever he said. Self doesn't have to say that, even though Self is on that Calipari bandwagon and that same train where he goes after the top talents and he can get those one-and-done guys to come to Kansas and he can get big-time recruiting classes. Very rarely does he have to replace an entire group, and that's what we just talked about with Mason and Graham and Lucas being a core that comes back. This year with Ellis and Traylor and Selden and Mason and Green and those guys all back, So that's very important, I think, for this consistency that Kansas has been able to play with and win at. And that's just why Bill Self is one of the best and why this program is 12 in a row in the Big 12 and 27 straight in the NCAA tournament, and nobody can really touch either one of those right now. So it'll be interesting to see them go for 13 and 28. I'd say the odds are good they're going to get both. Agree?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Last thoughts about the 2015-16 Kansas basketball season, other than you're not in Houston. We already know that.
We know that we're in Lawrence right now. We also know that Landon Lucas is so much more important at this point than we ever thought he would be heading into this season. We thought, all right, comes in off the bench, plays a few minutes, gets a few boards, maybe a little slow.
Right.
We didn't think very much of his overall skill set heading into the season.
Fair.
And he changed so many minds these last couple of months. Just playing smart defense.
Yeah.
Really impressive to watch.
I totally agree. I don't think there's a person out there that can say anything bad about him now. I mean, he still has some shortcomings. There's no doubt about it. He's not explosive or anything like that.
Right.
But to watch a guy improve the way he improved and to know how much he cares and how much work he put into it, it's got to excite you to think he's going to do that this offseason too. How much better will he be going into next year?
Yeah.
So it should be fun to watch. It'll be really interesting to see his role again next year, because if Self lands a couple of these young studs, he's already got Azubuike. There's one, and if he lands a couple other big guys, the minutes aren't there as much, and maybe Lucas has to do the same thing and just continue to be Mr. Solid, Mr. Consistent.
Come off the bench the first 2 months, and then everybody realizes, we should be playing him.
We should put him in there. Yeah, no, good stuff. Yeah, that's a great note. I agree with you. Landon Lucas, in some ways, might have been this team's MVP, really. I mean, you got to give it to Perry probably, but wow, what an important piece of a really, really good team. That's all we got for here. We will talk recruiting and all kinds of stuff on the rest of these off-season KU Sports Extra episodes, and of course we got some football to mix in there as well. But this one we just wanted to kind of put a bow on the 2015-16 season. 33-5, a trip to the Elite Eight. There's not a team out there that wouldn't say that's a good season. I say it is. What say you?
It was a really good season.
How about Tom?
I think Tom would think it's a good season.
We'll end right there. I don't want you to go any farther than that.
All right. We don't want to talk about anything else Tom thinks.
No, definitely not. Thanks for checking out this episode of KU Sports Extra. For Benton Keegan, I'm Matt Tait. We'll talk to you guys next time.